Well, hello again. I think I'm going to make a couple of charcuterie boards. I've got some cedar here, some ash, and some red oak, and I still haven't decided the exact pattern that I'm going to make for this charcuterie board, but it's got to have a handle, and I believe I'm going to make it about 12 by 18 inches. That way I can get it into my planer. I think what I'm going to do first is use my trusty dusty miter saw and cut some boards 36 inches long, and I'll cut two 18-inch long boards, and that way, and I'll slice them in half, and in between the cedar I'll put ash on this one and red oak in the other one, and I'll plane it, and then I can router anything I want in there. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I believe the first thing we're going to do is slice up some of this cedar. So let's get to that. We're ready to plane. And all I'm really trying to do with this is to make sure these are squared. They don't have to be the same measurement because they're going to be in separate charcuterie boards. But the point here is just to make sure that they're squared and level. So, without further hesitation, let's get to planing. Alright, so I've planed the ends, they're all square. Now I get to see which boards go with which other boards. This is fun. Alright, we made some initial cuts. I got my red oak and my ash, and I'm going to set those. I'm going to slice these up and put these right in the middle and glue them back together. I just like the way that looks. I use the trusty dusty miter saw to slice these boards into 18-inch lengths. Now I'm going to use my table saw and cut out some strips, and then we'll go from there. So let's see how this works. I've never done this before. It'll either work or it won't. It's only money, right? As long as you keep these and these, you're good. Let's rock and roll. Welcome back to my frigid garage/wood shop area. This is a lot like the chessboard that I made, in that when you glue these pieces together, they're going to want to bow. So you have to put some boards along them and clamp them down so that they stay flush. Now, I'm only going to glue both sides of this board and both sides of this board. And since I have a shortage of wood clamps, I'm going to glue two boards together, but I'm not going to put glue in between these two boards so that tomorrow there'll be two separate boards. I'll glue both this side, this side, this side, this side, clamp them together, and then we'll see where we are tomorrow. So let's get to it. I'm going to glue both sides. And you want to be pretty liberal with this glue. because you can always wipe off the squeeze out or sand off the excess, but if you've got too little glue, it's going to come apart. And that, my friends, you do not want, because then you get to start completely over. And I've done that too. Alright. A lot of people have a lot of different methods of putting this on that are better than this. But I have got 4 children, 2 houses, 2 dogs, 3 vehicles, a motorcycle, and a wood shop, and they all want fed. So I have to cut corners where I can cut them. And so I cut corners by not heating my wood shop and by minimizing my problems. So that's one board, and I just use wood glue and wipe it on an old towel. So let's get to it. We've got our glue up, but I made a mistake and I had to take it all apart and clean off the boards and re-glue them. And the reason is, this is a charcuterie board instead of a chess board, so it will have food on it. So I need to use wood glue that is treatable or treated for safe usage with food. I don't want my family getting, or your family, getting infected with something they shouldn't because they didn't have the proper wood glue used. Now as you tighten these down, you're going to notice some squeeze out. You want to wipe that off with an old shop towel or something. I've got a paper shop towel here. Because the more you wipe off, the less you'll have to sand off. But I'm going to have to do some sanding anyway. That's inevitable. And also I've got a hole to fill. So that's where we're at. I can't do anything more until tomorrow when I decide how to cut these out. I may just cut that hole out depending upon the design I choose to use. So in the meantime, thanks for hanging in there, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, we are at the point where it's time to start planing the charcuterie boards so that they are flush. I've got some things here that need to be taken care of, and then we'll decide on the design and everything that goes with it. So let's get to it. I may plane these again later because I've seen some things I don't like. The planer leaves marks. I need to change the blades, and I've seen some holes and other things that I need to take care of. But this is about the time that I worry about what shape I'm going to make. So there's where we are with that. I've got a hole here. I need to either I'll fill it, or more likely I'll just cut it out. I'm not sure of the shape that I'm going to make with this, but we will figure it out. Now I got to clean up my trusty, dusty, but not near rusty, rigid planer. I love that thing. My wife bought me that for a Thanksgiving gift last year, and I've used it almost every other day for a year. So I need to change the blades. Anyway, thanks for hanging in there. Alright, well, I've just about finished the sanding. I've got some holes to fill or cut out, more likely cut out. I have a design in mind that this will actually work out. I also found some cracks I don't like, so I'm going to use some wood glue and fix these cracks, and then I won't be able to do anything till tomorrow. But I sanded it with 60 grit sandpaper just to get the marks from the planer off, because I need to replace the planer blades. But we're just about ready to start the design. Just about. Alright, thanks for hanging in there. Alright, I've applied some wood glue as well as a couple of clamps. There's really nothing I can do with this board until tomorrow. So I will leave you with this. Get more wood clamps. Yeah, I'm going to cut this out. You can't fill it in. I'm going to put food on here. But I know what I'm going to router in here. Alright, thanks for hanging in there. This is the point where these videos will begin to diverge, because each one of these charcuterie boards is obviously a separate project, but the process was fairly uniform up until now. I wanted to do a Kansas City Chiefs themed charcuterie board, but no matter how I got the arrowhead, it made the board that's already kind of small shorter. So I kind of stretched the arrowhead. I'm not sure this is going to come out the way I want it, but it's now time to start routering out the letters. And once I finish routering out the letters, I will put it on my scroll saw and cut out the arrowhead. And we'll go from there and see what we want to do. But this is how it looks at present. The other board is for my wife. And I asked her, what she would want. I had all kinds of, her favorite sports teams, college teams. Her ancestors are Scandinavian, Swedish, Finnish, that kind of thing. And I asked her if she wanted, a Scandinavian theme, a Finnish deal. Nope. She just wanted her initials. So, was ist das? My genetic heritage is German and Irish, or Irish and German if you went the most. I'm mostly Irish. Anyway, I'm going to cut out a handle here with the scroll board as soon as I finish routering out these names, these initials. So at any rate, that's where these videos shall diverge. As usual, let's get to it. This is the time, like I said, when we will diverge. I have got my wife's board on here. As I said, she just wanted her initials. Sounds kind of boring to me, and my wife is not a boring woman. But that's what she wants, that's what she wants. That's what she gets. I just routed the previous board, and so my router's still plugged in. This is one of my favorite things to do, is router. I love this thing. The trim router, this is the full-size router. All of it, I just dig it. I think the only thing I like more than routering is using my scroll saw, and that comes next. Woohoo! Alright, that takes care of that. Now, I don't take it out of the clamps until I peel the tape back and see how it's come out. Every now and then you need to do some touch-ups, because as you're routering, you're tearing the paper, and sometimes you can't quite see where the board is. But we'll see if we can get this taken care of. Sometimes it comes off really easy, and sometimes it doesn't. It takes a little coaxing. Initials are actually harder to peel off than full words because there's a space between letters, and that makes it harder to pull up. I was going to say tear up, but it's not really tearing anything. See where we are. Let's blow this board clean and see where we are. I've got a very small wood chisel because sometimes there remains tags, like skin tags. I'm sure there's a woodworking term for it, but I don't know what it is. And you need to be able to remove them. And I can see one very small piece of business I need to take care of. And you got to be very careful, because if I foul this up, this whole deal will be done. Kaput. And I believe we have achieved success. You be the judge. I'm old enough to remember that tune. Here come the judge. I won't torture you with my singing. My children say I'm not very good. Here at Man Clan Woodworking, I'll let you guess what her last name is. Alright, now it's about time to start routering. I love routering, or scroll sawing, so let's get to the scroll saw. I think I'm going to do Mama's board first. These are some designs I made. And I think we're going to do this board first. There's a few things we need to do. You always, when you want to store your scroll saw, you want to make sure that you release all the tension off your blade. And as always, don't plug in anything until I'm ready to roll. And this saw is one of my favorites, and I don't generally use headphones when I use my scroll saw. There's just no reason for it. But you do need to make sure that you're comfortable. And although it has an air hose which blows sawdust off your board as you're cutting, I don't think it's all that efficient. So let's get to it. Put our tension on. See where I want to make these cuts, because I genuinely do not know. Yeah, I think that'll work. Well, that didn't turn out exactly the way I'd planned. A piece that I had tried to glue back together had broken off. However, it's not coming out too bad. I don't mind the way this looks at all. I'll trim this off before I go over it with a chamfer router. But I think this will be kind of nice for my wife. She's pretty good to me. Yeah, I kind of like it. Oh, I'm still out here in a t-shirt and shorts, and it's just above 60 here in northwest Missouri. So, I think I'm going to put a chamfer on this board before I sand it. I chose that instead of a roundover just because I liked it better for this board. I don't need to clamp this down to use my trim router because you can hold the board down and router with the other hand. So there's that. I'm hoping this all comes together the way I've planned. We'll find out. Well, let's get to rocking and rolling, my friends. That's not a good omen. Ugh. All right. This is kind of like a bad movie, isn't it? Where you're hoping the movie gets better. It doesn't. Although I think I'm funny. My wife and my children, they assure me I'm not. But they can't be trusted. All right. Let's do it. Well, that didn't turn out exactly as I'd planned, but it didn't turn out too bad. Where's my air? Blow it off clean a little bit. The chamfer bit, I put a little too much on it, and so it left a hard edge on each side. I'll sand some of it out, but it came out okay. I will sand some of this out, and then I'll paint it. Alright. It is now time to paint the letters. I've used wood filler on some of the gaps and knots in the wood, but that's not going to matter because the whole board's going to be covered in polyurethane and cured for a couple of weeks before any food's going to be on it. So I'm not worried about that. I'm going to paint this, I'm going to let it dry, and we'll sand it off, and we'll start applying the polyurethane. I just got some cheap acrylic craft paint, quick drying, easy cleanup. Again, it's not going to matter because it's all going to be covered in polyurethane. So let's get to painting, I suppose. I have finally finished painting. I tried to go paint on all sides to make sure each one of the letters were covered evenly and completely. So now it's just a matter of going around and popping the air bubbles as they appear. And once it begins to solidify, I'll leave it alone. Come back tomorrow, sand it off. I have sanded up to about 220 grit. I have let the initials dry. Like I said, I sanded it out, sanded both sides. We started with 60 grit, went up to 80, 120, 150, 220, and now it's very smooth. We're going to start applying our first coat of polyurethane. I frequently get nervous at this point because, man, polyurethane and I do not have a nice relationship. I have tried everything that I can think of to try. And what I have decided upon is this Minwax fast drying oil-based polyurethane. Now, fast drying, that's a relative term. Compared to what? The plague? I tried the Varathane, which is what Google says is the best polyurethane, and that I have had tremendous success with. I've also had equally tremendous failures with. It goes on thicker than the Minwax. I used to try and place a lot of polyurethane on at once, and that doesn't work well. You need to apply very, very thin coats, let it dry, and then go back. And that's what I'm doing with this. The Minwax is the most inexpensive that I could find and still have quality polyurethane. I've used brushes, I've used sponges, I've used a number of things to cover this on with. I've pretty much decided to use these shop towels. They're not cloth, they're very thick paper, they won't tear. You can tear them, but you really got to work at it. And I apply evenly and completely, much like when we painted the letters. Now, once this is all dry, this is for my wife. I will also polyurethane the bottom. Well, I'll sign it, probably put a note on it for my wife, and then sign it. But for now, this is just the initial coat. And like I said, you want to work it into the wood and make sure that it's evenly dispersed. Now, the other brands, like Varathane, make the wood much a deeper hue immediately because it's thicker, it's more viscous. Less viscous? It's like warm jelly. This is not. This is thin stuff. But I made a hope chest for my daughter, and I ended up 3 times because I'm Irish and I don't learn very quick. 3 times I had to strip 4 layers of polyurethane right down to the wood and start over. This I've never had to do that with because it goes on thinner, and I usually put 4 to 5 coats on. Now this will dry. This will dry to where you can touch it in a couple hours, but I won't put another coat on it for 12 hours, maybe not till tomorrow. And with each coat, it will get more and more thick, obviously, but it will also get shiny. And after you let it cure for a week or 2, you can put food on it. A lot of folks say you can't. I looked it up on Google, my favorite news source for everything that is, and Google says you can. So you do what you want. When I make cutting boards, I don't usually put polyurethane on it. I usually put mineral oil or boil linseed oil or cutting board oil, walrus oil, cutting board oil, things of that nature. But this has paint, and I want the paint covered because I do not want the paint being exposed to food. And the way I do that is polyurethane. That's about all the damage I can do for one coat. Hello. I am just finishing up the 5th and final coat for my wife's charcuterie board. I will let this dry, and then I will let it cure for 2 weeks, because I'm told by some master woodworkers that a week is the curing time, and I'm going to give it another week after that before I allow my wife to serve food on it. However, the board is just finished. So, there you have it. Thanks very much for sticking in there. Welcome back. I always get a little sad at the end of these projects because I have so much fun doing them. But we're finished. Now, I made this particular charcuterie board for my wife. You can drill a hole in the handle here and put a piece of leather through it, or anything else you want, hang it in the kitchen. My wife didn't want that. Sometimes you can put rubber feet on them if they're going to be on a kitchen counter to keep the water away. My wife didn't want that. She just wanted the board. Now, I've also, I initially put a coating of polyurethane on here, but on top of that, I'm going to make a coating of 100% natural beeswax. And I do this because it's got a nice lemony scent to it. It will go through the polyurethane and go into the wood, and it will just add one more barrier to the water, and I like the way it smells. So, get you a paper towel and wipe off any excess. And that will be that. As always, thank you so much for hanging in there. These are easy to make, they're a lot of fun, and they're useful. Till next time.